Guys, welcome back again to another episode of the Construction Business Blueprint YouTube channel. So this is a channel where I share all of my best work. I actually share the insights that I share with my clients, the lessons I go through with my clients, the teachings, the challenges they face. I come on here to try and give as much information as possible and help to as many people as possible in this construction community. Last week, again, just a quick recap if you're following this on a regular basis, which I know a lot of you are. Last week we talked about the SOP, setting things up, the standard operating procedure, trying to get things out of your head and onto paper just to make your life a wee bit lighter, be able to actually switch off at some point in time, stop repeating yourself over and over again. So what I built that for originally was for my clients. It was a wee bit of a series on leadership, and because it was a conversation that was coming up time and time again, as my guys obviously are organically growing. They are bringing in new team members all the time. They're getting bigger. They're bringing in admin. They're bringing in different types of staff, and it then sets a new challenge. So for some of these guys, they've dealt with that before, but for the majority of people in this industry, building a team, leading a team, knowing what to do with people is something that's quite alien to them, and that's fine. That's totally understandable, and that's why people like me exist, and this is why we do what we do in here. After building the SOP is fantastic. If you haven't watched that episode, I would definitely advise you to go back and do that before watching this one maybe, but again, the information that's going to be in here is going to be just as relevant on its own as it is without watching the last one. Having things written down, whether it's an SOP or whether it's just process of some way, shape or form, or step by step, here's what we do in here, here's how we do it. What that's good for is if there is a turnover of staff. So say one of your best guys leave, and he's been working with you for years, he knows how you work, he knows how things operate in here, he leaves, then you just bring somebody new and you kind of start from scratch. What having processes in place, or people often say, well, systems and processes, are they just buzzwords? Everybody says them all the time. But it's literally just something broken down step by step that somebody can follow. Like some sort of onboarding process, like, okay, here's like you could talk it through with them and say, look, here's what I expect of you coming in here in this role, here's what I'd like you to do, but it's documented. So it's not just verbally gone over, it's actually written down so they can go back and refer to that. They can read over things and chew over things and maybe come back with questions or suggestions, which is what you want to encourage with any team, okay? So what I done was I created this episode this week for you guys, but also what I done, this is something I done with my own private mentees again, and it was called the first 2 weeks, and it was like an onboarding process, and it was all based around the same theme that I heard all of the time, which was when you took somebody new on board, I'll take them in and we'll see how it goes. And I hate that saying. That belief is I'll just put them in and see how they get on. That is the single biggest mistake you can make when taking anybody new into your business. Taking somebody on is your responsibility. Okay, so you're wanting this guy to perform. You're asking this guy to come in, carry out a job or a role in your company. That's your responsibility. It's not for them to prove. How they turn out is mostly down to how you brought them in. Again, first impressions last. I'm sure everyone's heard of that scenario, that saying. But what I would challenge you to do is try to remember what it felt like. So most of you guys watching this have maybe been in business for a long time. You've always maybe worked for yourself, and you maybe forget what it's like to come into a new company, a new business, work for even a new client or a new type of job or whatever. So think back to a job or a project you got dropped into in the deep end with absolutely nothing. And again, people come back and say, oh, throwing you the deep end is the best way to learn you, but it's painful, it's slow, it usually causes arguments. Like that's not a good systemized, streamlined way of bringing somebody in, and just throw them in the deep end, and if they swim, they swim, if they sink, they sink. You want to get the best out of people. You don't want to leave it to chance whether they sink or swim. You want to actually make sure that person is set up with the best capability and the best opportunity to perform in your business, because if they perform in your business, then your business works well, you make more money, and everybody wins. So think about when you were dropped in like that. You had no idea who was who. You had no idea when you were supposed to stop, when you were supposed to start, where you get this, who you ask for that, who to call if there's a problem. Think back to how that felt. And the thing is, that uncertainty will destroy somebody's performance. Trying to figure everything out on their own and having so many open loops, having so many questions unanswered, makes somebody feel uneasy. And all that does is it takes them away from actually doing what you have employed them to do, which is to fulfill a certain task. But if something is really clear, it's really clearly communicated, then they can just get on with doing what it is you want them to do, instead of trying to figure out this, that, and the other and not know what is really going on. If you do that, and it's like, let's put them in and see how they get on, their judgment is off. Their focus is gone, because they're spending half their energy just trying to figure out what's going on instead of getting the job done, like I said. And this isn't being soft. This isn't wrapping somebody up in bubble wrap. This is just basic communication. This is something that happens in every other industry except for on-sites and construction. Even think of if you work in construction, the office staff, The office staff are brought in, they're given their desk, they're told about their times, they're signing up to these things, and they're getting their laptops and their logins and their passwords. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that scenario if you've worked in kind of the commercial space, or you've worked for somebody who's had a bigger office. Everybody knows how it works. They're all going doing this and doing that, and everything's everything's laid out. Before they even come, everything is laid out. They've even maybe applied for a job ad and ticked off, yes, this is what's expected of me, I can apply for this job. They've been interviewed, they've been checked against that. In this game, for most of us, it is, can you do this job? Yes, I'm qualified. Okay, come work for me and we'll see how you get on. Like, think of what's missing there. Everything's missing. And again, it applies if, whether the guy is coming in on the tools, whether it's a subcontractor, doesn't have to be an employee, or this could be admin, or this could be a contracts manager, or anybody coming into your business. We're not just talking about site related stuff here. So have it ready before they even walk in the door. I often would challenge anybody who would get somebody on board on the Friday and they're starting on the Monday. That doesn't leave a lot of time to set expectations, to map things out, to have things ready for them. Usually then by the time they come on Monday, you're on the back foot. You're scrambling, trying to get there to meet them at a certain time. You're quickly going through things because you have to go somewhere else and do something else. So I would always encourage you to try to get somebody on and give them a bit of notice. Okay, like, starting in 2 weeks, starting in 4 weeks. That's not breathing space. That's time for you to prepare for this person or these people to come on board. So think about, if it's an office, where's their spot? Is it sitting ready for them? If there's a van that's needed for them, their PPE, the SOP that we talked about in the last episode, is that all mapped out and ready for them? Do they know the expectations? Do they know where they're going to be all week? Have you thought about the questions like, how do I order materials? Who do I ring if there's a problem? What do I do if the client says this or asks this? You name it. Map all those things out for them, ideally before day one. An ideal situation would be if you're getting somebody on board and they're starting on the Monday, you go and see them the week before. So go and see them on the Thursday, Friday, talk them through. So this is what's going to happen next week when you start on site on Monday. Meet them for a coffee and have a chat. That's a good way of setting things in place. They're going to say, this guy's got everything figured out. He's really prepared. Everything's mapped out. I'm actually looking forward to this process, rather than going, I have no fucking idea what I'm getting into here on Monday. Haven't got a clue. And they're apprehensive, they're nervous, very unsure, and so are you. You're as unsure as they are, so you're both in the same boat. And again, guys, I'm speaking from experience. Okay, so yes, I have hired a lot of people in my time in business, and I've had somebody coming in on the Monday. I've almost forgotten about it because I've been running projects, managing teams, doing whatever I needed to do, and they've got there on Monday. Their desk is covered in files and papers. I'm trying to scramble to get things tidied up. Their laptop's not ready, their phone's not there, or haven't got their passwords. And to be honest, I've left people on a desk, like a contracts manager, a project manager, sat at a desk for 2 days with very little to do. I've maybe handed them a spec or handed them something and said, read through that, just to try and give them something to do. But they're sitting there going, this is embarrassing. I have made a huge mistake by coming here. This place is a mess. This guy is a mess. And again, everything I teach is from experience. I've been there, I've done that, and that's the things that I fixed and overcame. It's embarrassing for you and not just for them. It tells them like these guys don't have anything together before they've even started. It's not good. So first impressions works both ways. So when somebody new comes in, you're judging them. You're kind of seeing what they're like, trying to get a feel of who they are, what they're like, but they're judging you too. And that's hard to shake once it's set. So when that first impression is set, like you're scrambled, you're a mess, you're giving instructions urgently and you're running here and running there, they're going, gee, this is not good, this is not good. Their mind can be half made up before, like from day one of this place is X. They're branding it, they're putting a name on it, they're looking at you and they're judging you. Also, if they've heard this place is chaos, if they've asked around, and which everybody does in this game, it's a big industry, but it's a small world, and everybody seems to know each other, especially locally. If they're asking other people what you're like and what it's like to work in your place or who you are as a person, and they've already someone's already built this picture in their head, they're already coming in with that first impression already made. So it's kind of up to you to change that impression. I know I could say, well, you're employing them, you're putting them in your business and you're doing them a favour. You're not. Okay, they're coming here to do something for you. Your onboarding is the same thing that your marketing does. Okay, proving your place is a good place to be. Your best hires will come to you through word of mouth. Your best hires sometimes can come from guys you've already got, going and telling their mates or whoever, somebody else, look, I'm here working here, it's working really well, they're looking for another X, Y, and Z, great opportunity, I think you should come on board. That's fantastic. That's building up that sort of reputation. Marketing and reputation is not just for winning work, it's also for getting great team members into your business, so you have to think about that too. And again, where people really get this wrong is treating things like a dictatorship. If you think in your head that you're doing somebody a favour by giving them a job, you're not. It's an exchange. They're coming in to do a task or a service, and in exchange you're paying them. That's what it is. It's fair exchange. No one's doing anybody a favour here. Another one where people fall down is chasing an instant return. Okay, so don't expect the new hire to come in and start making serious money or taking a lot off your plate from day one. I would always allow some sort of a soft landing, or an onboarding period, or some sort of like a soft probationary period of maybe 2 to 3 weeks of shadowing you, learning your standard, learning your speed. That's not wasted time. Where if you're expecting to come in and somebody just to hit the ground running, that's a pretty poor expectation of somebody. Okay, so in the first 2 weeks, always have it in your mind that I'm not going to get an instant return on this guy. It's going to take a few weeks for him to learn how things work in here, to get up to speed, for even him to start, or her, to get to their best. Very rarely, I would say maybe out of 10 people you'll hire, you make it 8 people who will come in and just run with it and fly with it and do what they need to do. But for most people, it's natural for them to be a bit of a slow starter. They're nervous about making mistakes, so they're doing things slower. They're maybe not making decisions or using their initiative because they're trying to get a feel from you of what am I allowed to do here? How much responsibility can I take? Can I make this call or this judgment call? So they're coming and asking you, and the phone's ringing, and you're going, why is he ringing me all the time? This is a pain in the ass. I'm bringing him in to take things away from me, and I'm spending more time. But again, you have to expect that in the early process, the start of the process, the early days. So don't chase an instant return. Don't think I'm paying him X a week. He should know what he needs to do. He will in time, but always give it time. Nothing is ever instant. Okay, so shoulda, woulda, coulda. Allow the training process. Allow this guy and have that expectation in your head, and let him know, okay, so for the first 2 weeks, this is all I expect. I expect you to learn how we do things in here. I expect you to ask loads of questions. I'm going to be checking in with you on a daily basis or a weekly basis to see how you're getting on, and I expect feedback. I expect you to be asking questions. If you don't ask questions, I'm going to assume that you know everything, you're comfortable, you're familiar, then I'm expecting you to produce the goods. Okay, so again, don't chase an instant return. Another one when bringing somebody on new is be really, really clear. Okay, the deal works both ways. The baseline stuff, timesheets, hours, black and white, no grey areas. Okay, so if you don't have anything in place for overtime or whatever, when you start building a team, you're going to need that. You're going to need a set of rules or a set of standards. Never leave anything like that, especially financially, up to chance. Or, well, before when I was somewhere, when we worked a Saturday, we got time and a half, or we got an extra this or an extra that, or, you know, I worked late the other day, so can I leave early tomorrow? Things that get that clear from the beginning, because that's going to get the awkward conversations out of the way, or the expectation where he gets his wages on a Friday and says, hold on, I worked 2 hours late that day, and you know, but I let you away early that day, and you're going, yeah, but that's not my problem if you didn't have to work that day and sent me home early. Like, that's not how it works. So, or else someone gets their wages and it's low because you let them away or whatever else. These guys could be employees. Subcontractors on a price, slightly different, but be really clear. Get all that really basic, simple stuff out of the way. Even if somebody goes, yeah, no, that's totally fine, I get it. At least the conversation has been had. So keep the baseline crystal clear. But how to get the most out of people is be generous when it's earned. In my opinion, an employee mentality, it's kind of not give and take, okay? It's take. It's kind of if someone's employed to come in and do a job, they just want paid. It is almost like, yes, they'll do a service, they'll provide, but to them it's like, it's all down, they're there for money. They're not there for the love of your business. The majority of the time, they're not there for the love of their trade. They're there to go and earn money and put bread on the table. But how to get the most out of those people is to, when they go above and beyond and they do those, recognize that. Maybe not by pay rises and inquiries, but if somebody does work a few hours over, pay them for it. You know, if somebody performs well and a job gets done early, like say your working time is 2 o'clock on a Friday, it's 12 o'clock, they're finished, it's done, send them home early, pay them for the full day. You know, you've allowed for that in the project, let them have it. That's what's incentivizing somebody to go the extra mile. I'm going to stay a wee bit late, I'm going to get paid for it, but at the end of the day, if I get away early on Friday, it happens. Now, there's always a fine line in the margin. This is construction, people will take the piss. People will try to drag things out to get overtime, stuff like that. But again, if you're clear on, here's where I expect you to be every day, here's what I expect this is what, you know, do you agree that this is going to get done in this time? And you'll know by looking at the job. So hold on, you're looking to stay on for an extra 4 hours. We talked about this. This task is this. That should only take so many hours. Like, what's happening here? Are you taking the piss? I've also had guys who wanted to leave early on a Friday. They get, you know, the job needs done, but they left early on a Friday, but then they want to come in on a Saturday and get time and a half. That's obvious. That's someone who is trying to take the piss. So again, there is a fine line, there is a margin, but you should know, you know, be on top of those things, look at those things. But what I mean is, if you're asking somebody, you're on a job together, you're on a site together, and you're going, lads, I need you to pull in here, Or if it's a commercial project and the clients came back to you and said, you need to be out of this area by Friday, and you're going, shit. For that to happen, I need these lads in here 12 hours a day for the next 3 days. Then that's fine. Go and have the conversation, ask them, pay them the extra, and when it gets done, great, and whatever else. But it's never just like, never do this scenario of they work late on a Friday, and you say, yeah, but see, 3 weeks ago I let you away 2 hours early, and it balances itself out. It doesn't. That's never going to fly, and that's never going to work. So again, making things clear from the beginning. Don't make it just about a number, because I'm sure you've had the scenario before where people are coming and asking you, look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I think I need a pay rise. Okay, that question, if I think I need a pay rise, get that very clear. What I would do is, again, incentivize people for, if they finish early, let them away early. If you do particularly well on a project, or they get a good review, you get good feedback from them, you could lay that out in the KPI. If you do this X, Y, and Z, you'll get a wee bonus. You know, that incentivizes somebody to continue doing a good job without just trying to put everything down to a number. You know, so many hours, so many pounds. If you incentivize them, give them wee bonuses, give them wee things every now and again, time off early, do whatever, that's what's going to keep people in more than just a number. You know, pay on performance. It's performance based. Again, I could talk about this section all day, but again, we don't have all the time in the world, so I'll just brush past that one. But that's something is, don't just focus on the actual paid per hour. Try to incentivize them on different things to keep them happy, keep them wanting to do more. Another tip that I would encourage everybody, and another bit of feedback that I always get, is deal with the fear of losing people head on. So people often come to me and say, you know, I don't want to show them too much, I don't want to do too much, because what if they leave? But if you treated everybody in your business and kind of put them in some sort of a container and held back on them performing in your business, on the chances that they might one day leave, that's a poor way to run your business or lead a team. Okay? You should create an environment where people don't want to leave. And again, we talked about all those different things that we can do. Make them feel valued, make them feel appreciated, give them wee bonuses here and there when it's deserved. That's what's going to incentivize somebody to stay. Don't ever put somebody in a box or limit their potential, or, you know, hold insights back on them and how they could perform better and things that could actually make them go the extra mile in the eventuality that they might leave because you've had a guy before, a young lad who you've trained up and he's decided to go out on his own. That's going to happen. You're not going to prevent that. You know, control what you can control. When somebody's there, get the best out of them. Your business is going to perform well and better because of it. And again, incentivize that person. Make sure, like, don't just take it for granted. Let them know and recognize they're doing a great job and create an environment where they won't want to leave. But never, I often get that all the time, never put somebody in a box or limit their potential in the fear of that one day they might leave and go off and do their own thing. Because if somebody in this game wants to run their own business, that's in them. They'll always do that regardless. So again, never move with the fear of somebody or losing somebody. And the last one I'll leave you with, again, these are all just scenarios that come to me time and time again. Quick to hire and quick to fire. Spot a weakness or a gap in the business or somewhere that you're underperforming or somewhere that you need help with, and be quick to try to fill that role and try to get somebody in to help with that process. Don't kick it down the road for as long as possible until you get to the point of absolute desperation and then take somebody in because you're in a bit of a panic or a bit of trouble. So constantly review things in business and see, where do I need help? Where can I improve things? Do I need this? Map it out, look, see what good looks like, and then be quick to hire for that role. In the same way, if you're following the processes and like everything we talk about on this channel, like my clients do, if you're following a process, you've got these guys on SOPs, KPIs, you can identify when they're working well, when they're not working well, you're having regular performance reviews. Don't let somebody fester in your business who is underperforming. Okay, reward the guys who are working well, and the guys who don't, get rid of them and get rid of them fast. You know, if you have somebody who is bad-mouthing other employees, they're talking about clients, they're doing whatever, like, think of what they're doing. If they're doing that when you're there, think of what they're saying when you're not there. Okay, say you've got a great guy can be ruined by one bad guy just constantly in his ear, chirping. Okay, so you need to be, again, quick to hire but quick to fire. I know this may be difficult to comprehend, but the sooner you get rid of somebody who you've been thinking about getting rid of for a long time because they're constantly repeat offenders of X, Y, and Z, the quicker your business will move forward. For maybe a short time, you may have to jump in, do whatever you need to do, but again, quick to hire. Go and look for somebody else. As soon as you see somebody potentially underperforming, I would look to go and replace that person ASAP. So just to close on that, team makes or breaks your business. Without one that you can rely on, the business completely depends on you. So these things that we put in place, we want to give the best opportunity for people coming in and coming on board. So the quicker you learn to build a team, and lead one, the quicker you will succeed in growth.